strength training for women, especially over 40 plus. What are the benefits and what we also are facing as we are approaching our 40 plus? So I am starting this series, and today in this episode, I am going to be reviewing a few research articles from the National Library of Medicine. And this article's reviewing the benefits of resistance training, especially for bones and muscles, and what type of resistance training is actually more effective than other. So you might be curious, just like I was. And my journey with strength training started not that long time ago. I was in my 40s, and I'm glad that I started because now it's part of my regimen. And you'll see why, and why there are so many benefits to the strength training as you decide to follow my episodes. All right, just a few facts here, and I'll be using the papers here. Human muscle undergoes constant changes. We know that, right? So it's always growing, and then it kind of needs more help. So after about age 50, muscle mass decreases at an annual rate of 1 to 2%. Muscle strength declines by 1.5% between ages of 50 and 60, and 3% thereafter. So once muscle mass in elderly adults falls below 2 of standard deviation compared to an active person, the younger person, the next, the gait speed, which is like our speed of how fast we can walk, it decreases by 0.8 miles a second. So that's pretty significant, right? And this is also based on some clinical studies. Sarcopenia, which is basically muscle loss, is one of the 4 main reasons for loss of muscle mass. That's what it pretty much is. And on average, it's estimated that 5 to 13% of elderly people aged 60 to 70 years are affected by sarcopenia. And of course, that process kind of starts and then just keeps going until we reach those test standards. So, and of course, when muscle mass is not there, muscle strength is not there, our daily activities are compromised. Also, our potential for falling is much higher, and then injuring our bones and recovery after that could be taking way longer. Okay, so this is drastic statistics. We cannot go against facts. And just to give you a few definitions of how the authors define osteoporosis and sarcopenia in their paper. Osteoporosis is characterized by a decreased bone mass and an increased risk of fragility fractures. So yes, and you probably have heard of osteoporosis, and this is, again, just decrease of bone mass. And just keep in mind that muscles attach to bones, and they're designed to move bones. So as we talk about resistance training, we do work with muscles, and of course the bones benefit from it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Sarcopenia is defined as the age-related decrease in skeletal muscle mass, function, and strength. And then the authors talk about the benefits of resistance training, which basically resistance training is the mechanical load induced by exercise training that stimulates muscle mass, and based on that mechanical stress applied, so that it also enhances the osteoblast activity, which is basically the bone growth. So the mechanical load can be simply like, if we imagine gym environment, so it could be dumbbells, kettlebells, resistance bands, might be just like a very, very low level of that resistance training. But let's stay tuned, because there are some specific aspects of what would be really efficient and effective for strength training and bone mass generation. So weight-bearing impact exercise, such as hopping, which we probably don't think about, and how many women, especially over 40, practice dynamic movements, practice hopping, or they also refer to jumping as our resistance training program. So, but these are very dynamic activities that stimulates different fibers of the muscles. Also, they're very important in our active moving world and movements. So the authors say that hopping, jumping, and resistance training, all of that in combination, can improve the bone health in adults, which leads to bone mass in density and muscle strength. And again, why is it so important? Because as we are getting older, there is an age number. It's not about how you feel necessarily, but there are some processes that naturally occur. And there are some things that we can do to prevent or slow them down, just like resistance training. So when we obviously have that potential for risk of falling and injuring the bones, and also when the muscles atrophy, we kind of get that slowing process of atrophy. So our daily activities are compromised, so we're not as functional in life. And for example, my mom lives with us, and she's never really done strength training. And especially at this age where she is right now, I hear a lot that it's too heavy. It's too heavy. Oh my God, it's too heavy. So, which when she refers to what is heavy, it's not really that heavy. But that's more of a personal example and what I'm observing in my mom as she is also approaching her age. So interesting, which was I guess was surprised more with, is the following. And just prelude to that is that I work with a lot of women who are over 50, and I hear a lot that their doctors prescribe regular walking as part of their sort of like being active, but also a lot of times they do say that to improve your bone health or to improve your muscle strength. And walking is a wonderful activity, and it's perfectly great that you do it. I love walking and I walk every day, but you just have to understand what the goal behind, and can that activity meet that goal. So surprisingly enough, in this research paper that I'm reviewing here, the authors, based on their analysis of other papers, concluded that prolonged aerobic training, such as swimming, cycling, walking, Zumbaing, it's widely beneficial for all body systems. But there are clinical evidences suggesting that none of these activities provide an adequate stimulus to bones. Yes. I always remind my ladies that I work with who are super into cardio that you cannot out Zumba, out run, out walk, or out cycle osteoporosis. Resistance training is going to make the most impact for that goal. But if you love to dance, you definitely have to do Zumba or something like that. It's okay. But just remember, if your goal is to increase the bone mass and also strengthen your muscles, so cardio activities is not going to be your primary focus. So, and basically, they conclude that those activities, aerobic type activities, they provide no or very low impact on bones and shows lesser osteogenic responses, which is that bone growth, than weight-bearing aerobic exercises in older adults. So basically, those activities do not stimulate bone growth because they do not provide sufficient magnitude. Okay, so for example, strength training is based on the principle of progressive overload, and I'll talk about that more in other episodes. So with that progressive overload, we can constantly stimulate the response or increase the stimuli by increasing the weight or the rate or the frequency or velocity and things like that, so that we can continue increasing that sufficient magnitude, right, of the load. So now how the authors define what is resistance training. So and they refer that to actually resistance exercise. So resistance exercise is defined as a physical conditioning program that enhances fitness, health, and sports performance using a variety of training modalities, such as free weights, weight machines, elastic bands, and different movement velocities. The magnitude of mechanical load, so and again, mechanical load might be just like when we do, we resist the load as we're extending the arm and flexing the arm. So that's that mechanical load applied with a dumbbell, let's say. So the magnitude of mechanical load is important for bone formation, and resistance training provides a magnitude of strain that exceeds the threshold required for increased bone modeling. So they recommend to have 8 to 12 repetitions, at least 2 to 3 times a week. So that's when the application of this program is going to be the most efficient for bone density and muscle strength. Another interesting fact that a lot of times that I also discuss with my female clients who are ladies over 50 is that they are under the impression that they can lift, like, let's say 5 pounds, like for the rest of their life. And that's it. And I will talk a little bit more about those type of things in my other episodes. But here again, the researchers of this paper, they specifically say that resistance training have been achieved when the resistance was progressively increased over time, that progressive overload. The magnitude of mechanical load was high, around 70, 80, or 85% of 1 RM. So what that means, 1 RM, for example, if I can lift 50 pounds one time, so that means like that's my heaviest at the moment, I can only do 1. That is it. So then in order to make that magnitude, that load effective for bone growth, I would like to work in the range of like 8 to 12 reps. And again, it depends on where you are. Let's say 80% from my 1 RM, which would be about like maybe 40 pounds. And 40 pounds, again, might like feel and sound quite a bit for many ladies in their kind of strength training journey. So that's why, again, there are other variations. So that's why my personal observation and working one-on-one always helpful. So just to keep it safe and to also prepare the mindset to lift more for better bone density and muscle growth, muscle strength. So 70-80%. And that's probably like one of the main differences that researchers also have observed between men and women. For men, that growth, that increase becomes sort of a faster and quicker. Well, they're also like genetically a little bit more predisposed for that muscle strengthening and growth, just because of the like more testosterone and other stuff. And the women, on the other hand, they might be like doing sort of a same program, the same duration of the program, the same movements, but they're not progressing as fast. And one reason was that they're not increasing the stimulus. They're not increasing that magnitude. They're kind of like sort of stuck in that mindset of 5 pounds is enough. So it just doesn't work like that. All right, so I thought that was interesting as well. Yes. So again, so just to conclude from all these papers that I've been reviewing, and what also has surprised me and has educated me as well, that I am on the right track. So, and there is evidence out there that suggests that it's perfectly okay and highly recommended to continue increasing the weight to strengthen the muscle, to produce muscle growth, and also help bones to have enough stimulus to increase that bone density. Okay, so also, again, the low type activities, just like I mentioned before, walking is not low type, it's less weight bearing activities like walking, Zumba, cycling, yoga. So they're not going to be on your top priority list if your goal is to increase the bone density. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that as well in my future episodes. So, and basically, be well, feel strong, and take care of your body. So strength is empowering, and it's not just about getting bulky or achieving higher PR or going to the gym for the checkoff point. Just understand your goals and try to make your training as efficient as possible to help you achieve your goals. And so that you feel great in life and feel functional to do the daily activities without being afraid of falling and injuring the bone, and playing with grandkids, feeling healthy, feeling well, and feeling strong.